Hey, I'm Mark. Welcome into my studio. We've got kind of a behind the scenes little shot here to start the video today. I'm filming this with my phone camera because we're going to look at and talk about my main camera that I normally use for filming these types of shots. The project that I want to do today is actually to replace or to modify the way that I have this camera mounted to make it more flexible for, doing other different kinds of shots in my studio that I currently can't do without taking it off of the arm that it's on, and that's a bit of a hassle. So I want to make this a little bit more movable and configurable for some other things that I want to do in the future with, fancier shots here on the channel. And so I wanted to show you what I've got right now as far as the setup, so you can kind of see where I'm working from, and then we'll work on the video today with trying to improve this thing. So this is a Rode microphone arm that I have the camera mounted on right now, and it's nice, right? It moves really far out over my desk, and normally I have the camera pointed straight down above my desk, so when you see shots of me building things at my desk, this is the camera angle that you're looking at. And but the thing is, it can also be reconfigured like this. So I can drop this down, spin this around, and have it pointed this way. So if I want to do a talking head shot to start a video, or just about any other shot here in the studio, I have the option to be able to do this, and then I can move this around and point it where I need to point it, and talk to the camera that way. It stays plugged into my computer while I do that, so that I can either be streaming that or recording it straight through OBS onto my computer, rather than recording it on the camera and then having to download the footage later. So I like that. It's good and flexible. The problem is this arm is fixed mounted right now at the top of this shelf. And there are some places, some shots here in the studio, especially back there around the corner at my spray booth, some kind of lower angle things because it's mounted so high up. There are shots that I can't actually achieve without taking this thing off of here and putting it on a tripod instead. And of course I can do that, but I'm lazy and I'd like to leave it just mounted here as much as possible and just use it from here. And so what I'd like to do is change this thing so that it's not fixed mounted here on this shelf anymore, so that it's mounted on some kind of plate or tray or thing with handles that we can then move it around to different spots in the studio as needed. Now, of course, there's another thing other than just the fixed mount here that's going to be a problem, and that is the wiring, right? So right now I have two wires running up to this camera. One is the HDMI cable that's sending the video signal out of the camera into my computer, and the second is this one that's the power cable that plugs into the dummy battery in the bottom of the camera. So we're going to have to solve that as well, figure out a way to make those cables either more manageable or remove them entirely by transmitting the video in a different way. And I have a plan for that as well that we'll try out as the video goes along here, and we'll see how it works. So what I've got in this little tray here on the desk is, I think, all of the electronics and cables and some hardware and some other stuff that we're going to need to be able to achieve this idea that I have. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm going to try it on video today, live here as you're watching, and we'll see how it goes. I'm also going to need to probably print, design and 3D print some mounting parts to get all of this different equipment attached together and onto this base platform, which is what we're going to use with the handles here to be able to move the whole thing around. So I'm going to put this down. We'll switch back to my good camera now that you've kind of seen the layout and the project as we're trying to do it. We'll switch back to this good camera. I'll show you all these parts and kind of go over how I plan to put them together, and we'll see if we can get this thing working in a more portable way. Should be a fun project. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get started. All right, so let's take a look at this little wooden tray here and all the stuff that I had in it, and I'll show you how I plan to put all of this together. First of all, the tray itself, I think this is just meant to be like a wooden serving tray. I picked it up from my local like $5 store for real cheap. It's not super sturdy, but it's strong enough, and I think it'll make a decent base for this, as opposed to like me building my own base out of aluminum extrusions or wood or something else. I figured it was just easier to just get something that was about the right size. So everything's gonna sit in here, and I'm gonna have these handles to be able to move it all around, so that'll be good. The first thing that we need to do is mount that Rode microphone arm onto this base. And what I'm going to do for that, the arm itself came with two different methods of attaching it to a desk. There was the screw down clamp, which you've already seen, that I'm currently using to attach it to the shelf up to my left there. And this was the other thing that came with it. So this is just meant, I think, to for you to drill a hole down through your desk, and then you just insert this down through there and thread this on from the bottom to tighten it up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to mount this in here. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and designed and 3D printed this part here. Now, it's bright red right now. This is just my prototype. I tend to print prototype parts in old, cheap PLA. I have a bunch of spools of PLA that were just given to me by somebody, and they're probably like 5 or 6 years old at this point. So they don't print super great, but they work okay for you know, just testing stuff out. So the idea is we'll insert this down through here. If I sized that correctly, that should fit nicely, and then I can just thread this on. I didn't really give myself a ton of space, it looks like, to be able to actually screw this down, so I may have to actually get, yeah, some like needle nose pliers or a small tool of some kind to help me screw this down here, but we'll get it most of the way tightened here. You get the idea. So this will be here just to hold that down, and then what I've done is I've put holes all the way through it on these sides, and I bought from my local hardware store a couple of these rods. The idea is that they're just slightly longer than this. I could actually cut these down to be just the right length, and I probably will at some point, but this is just a prototype for now. So these are going to insert down through here, and I think I've made these holes just barely small enough that I'm going to actually have to twirl these and actually thread them through. So I'm going to do a bunch of that off camera because it's making a loud squeaking noise that you might notice on camera. So yeah, I'll do that. Anyway, the idea is we're going to screw this all the way through here, and then I'm going to measure up from the base of this along the side of here, and I'm going to drill 2 holes in the right spots here, and likewise on the other side. So these will run all the way through, and this thing can sit right in the middle, but they'll brace it down to the top of, or you know, to the box itself, and it'll be sitting just flush on this surface is the idea. So I'm going to go out to my garage, grab my drill and do some measurements and actually drill those holes, and then I'll come back with this thing installed on here. I'm thinking pretty close to one end so that we can counterweight it over here, because I know if the arm is leaning off that way, it's going to create, you know, it's going to need quite a bit of counterweight over here to hold it down. So I'm going to do that structural part of things, and then we'll come back and we'll put all of these electronics and things in here. Eventually, I do plan to also make 3D printed mounts for all of this stuff, but I'm going to play with it a bit first in practice and make sure I like the arrangement of things and how they're hooked up to one another before I lock them down in position with, you know, custom mounts of their own. So for now, we're going to just put everything in this empty part of the box, but I do need this one structurally attached to the box so that we can put the arm on there. So I'll go do that, get this attached to the box, and then we'll come back and hook the camera all up with all of the rest of this electronics and give it a try. Okay, so that worked pretty well. I've got this all secured down onto the tray now. All I did was put some wing nuts on the ends of these for now to hold everything in place. And again, once I'm sure that this is the design I want to use, I could clean this up and cut this off. And I'm also going to cover up these rods eventually so that you don't see them from here. But this is nice and solid. We'll try the arm itself in here in a little bit, but first I wanted to show you the rest of what's going to go in here. And again, I'm going to eventually mount this nicely, but for now I'm just going to make sure that it's all hooked up and working, and I'm going to use it for a little while and decide how I want to position all the different components before I decide on what the final arrangement is going to be here. So there's 2 concerns that I'm worried about mostly with this setup. One is obviously getting video from the camera out and to my computer, and then the second is powering everything that's part of this mobile setup here. And so we'll start with video first. So I've gotten this little box. This is a new piece of equipment for me. Some of the other stuff here is stuff that I already had in my collection. So this is made by Zowie Tech, and it's called a Zowie box. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. I grabbed mine off of Amazon just as a way to sort of try this out because I was intrigued to see whether this would work. But this little box is basically a video encoder. It takes an HDMI input signal. It can stream that encoded signal, you know, straight out to like Twitch or YouTube or any streaming platform through RTMP. But it can also convert video to NDI for sending high quality video across your network. Now, it doesn't do the highest quality version of NDI. It does NDI HX versions, and like HX and HX2 and 3, I believe, as well. So I've done a little bit of preliminary testing with this and my camera and sending video over my network, and it works pretty well, especially if I go over my wired network. Of course, you could do this over Wi-Fi as well, and we may try that later in the video, but I imagine that we might see some quality issues or some dropping out of the video from time to time if we're trying this over Wi-Fi. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to wire this up. So I'm going to have Ethernet coming into here. It can also take power over Ethernet, so if you have a power over Ethernet capable switch that you're plugging it into, which I do, this will power it as well. It can also get its power through USB-C, and we might try that later on as well. So I'm going to plug Ethernet in here, and I'm going to plug the HDMI cable, this one here, which will be going up the arm to my camera. I'm going to plug that in here, and then we'll just leave this sitting over here and have it powering everything up. So those are those two components there. And then as far as powering everything else, we have to get power to the camera. The way I'm going to do that is with this little battery unit here. So this I already had. These big batteries are really useful for cameras. And this particular plate, which is, I believe, made by Small Rig. Again, I'll try to find this, a link to it, and put it in the description. I've had this one for a while, so I'll have to remember what it was that I purchased. But the cool thing about this is it has a 7.4 volt DC output here. And so with the appropriate cable, which I have right here, we can go out from here and into the dummy battery that is in my camera. And so the camera sees, you know, just as if it's plugged into permanent power, but it's getting power from these batteries. And so this will snap in there, and then this thing gets power through the USB-C port. So when I have this thing in a fixed position, I can plug USB-C into here, and I can plug the Ethernet cable that also provides power into here. So I'll have two wires coming out of this whole unit, and that should be everything that I need to, you know, power my equipment on here and also get a video signal out. But if I want to move this thing around, I can unplug the USB-C cable from the battery. Everything will go, everything will go under battery power. And then I've got a short USB cable that I can plug from here, and it'll provide power out into the Zowie box if I'm not on Ethernet. So I should be able to power the whole thing from the battery, or power it, you know, from external cables plugged in. And the trick that I'm going to have to figure out is how I want to reconfigure that if I'm moving this around, right? Because I'll have to unplug a couple things and change a couple things around. And that's why I haven't designed the mounts, the permanent mounts for these components yet, because I've got to use this in practice, I feel, a little bit to make sure that I understand how I'm going to be plugging and replugging and unplugging the USB-C especially, to be able to get all of that working. So that's the basic setup for video and power here. The other final consideration I have is audio. And right here at my desk, the microphone that you hear me talking into right now is a Rode shotgun mic that I have up above my desk that is always just kind of here. It's on an arm, but it's in a kind of fixed location. And so if I do want to move this around to other places and I want to talk and have my voice heard well and, you know, not sound like I'm far away with that microphone being far away. I had this in my collection as well. I haven't used this much. I picked it up a while back to do remote video, you know, audio for video stuff. This little anchor work thing, it's got these two wireless mics, and you just clip this on your shirt or, you know, wherever you want it to be. And then this is the little receiver for them, and it just needs to plug into my camera with a cable like this. And so I will find a mount or create a mount, I guess, for my camera rig, the cage that's on the end of my camera, so that this will attach onto there, and have this plugged in there so that when I move this thing around, I can optionally then take one of these microphones out, clip that on my shirt, and then we'll have good audio coming in from wherever I am in the studio where this camera's pointed at. So hopefully that kind of goes over everything that's here and how it's all going to hook together. I'm going to actually go and hook it together right now, but I need to have my camera to do that, and so you can't watch because the camera's filming what we're watching here. So I'm going to hook all that up just as I described. All right, so here we are. Everything's hooked up. This thing is kind of weirdly on its own arm and pointing back down toward its own base. It's leaning in a kind of weird way. Like this corner is up off the desk. If I push this, you can probably see the camera kind of moves, because this thing is not sturdy enough like it is just with these two metal bars holding the plastic mounting piece in place. So I'm going to have to come up with a solution that gives this whole platform a little bit more rigidity. But for now, it's good enough to, you know, at least kind of test all of this out. So as I said, we've got two wires coming in from the outside of the rig here. This one is our network cable that's providing both power and a network connection to our encoder box, which is on. It's got this nice little LCD. It's probably too bright for the camera to pick up here, but it cycles through different statistics showing you things about its IP address and its temperatures and the fact that it's correctly, or that it's currently encoding and it has no errors and all that kind of stuff. So that's useful. And then the second cable that's coming in is this USB cable right here that is going in to charge our battery. So the battery is charging. We can see right here it's got nearly 4 bars of charge, and it's the last one's blinking there as it's charging. And this cable is coming out of the battery and going up to the camera, which you can't see because it's currently filming this. So that's the whole setup, kind of here in the box working. And again, it needs to be more rigid for sure. And then I need to figure out how to mount these components. And I'll do that in the future. If you're interested in seeing kind of the final completed version of this, we're not going to show that in this video because I just wanted to kind of put it together and test it. But leave a comment down below if you're interested in seeing how this turns out. I could, in the future make another video once I've got this all configured and I'm happy with how it works. But I wanted to do a little bit of live testing here. I haven't tried any of this stuff yet, so we'll see how this works. The first thing is I should be able to unplug. Whoa, the whole thing almost fell. Okay, so be careful about balance while we test this. So I should be able to unplug the USB here from the battery. And so that cable is now gone. The whole system is running off of battery now, and it should still be working okay. I'm gonna very carefully hold this thing down, or maybe adjust the angle of the boom arm so that it doesn't have so much weight pressing back against the weight at this back corner here. All right, very good. So yeah, that works. So we work in a wireless way, and I think I should be able to grab a USB cable and plug it in here to our encoder box, and then plug that into the USB cable on our camera, or on our battery. So now the battery should be powering, yeah, that changed from orange to blue, this little LED right here, to indicate that it's sending power out. So now this is powering this box. So theoretically, this doesn't need its internet connection anymore, or its Ethernet connection. Now, when I unplug this, likely the video is going to stop. So I'll try that right now, and we'll see what happens. I thought that it might stop as it switched over to Wi-Fi. However, it seems like it has done it seamlessly. That's pretty amazing, actually. I thought I was gonna have to turn off and back on the video feed in my OBS recording, but I didn't have to do that. So you can see here the video is still going, and nothing's connected. So this box is now completely disconnected from everything. So I could, as I was thinking that it might be possible to do, I could now pick this thing up and move it around. Now, the stability is an issue, so that's something I'm gonna have to work on solving, but that's cool. All right, very good. So I have this remote camera set up now. Now, the only other thing I wanted to test is, because I'm sitting here at my desk, I've been using the good microphone that I normally use for recording and streaming that's here at my desk. That's what you're hearing me talk through right now. But I do have the wireless microphone that I showed you a little while ago hooked up to the camera, and I have the transmitter on my shirt. And so I should be able to here switch over. So I'm going to mute the old mic. And now I've unmuted the wireless mic. So now I'm not using my mic at my desk. I'm using the wireless one on my shirt instead. You can probably hear a difference. I'll have to go back and listen to this footage after I've recorded it and see how much of a difference I hear. But yeah, so now we're basically completely wireless, not connected to my desk. So I can move this now over to my spray booth for filming over there, or anywhere else, and I could get audio and video from those locations, either into a live stream or into my computer for direct recording, onto my hard drive and then editing later. So that is it. That's the test that I wanted to run today. I'm still being careful to hold this down as I let go of the camera, because it does hold, but it definitely puts some weight or some leverage on this base, and so I'm going to have to work on figuring out what to do about that. So that's the one downside so far, is just figuring out how to make this thing rigid enough to hold this arm. But everything else seems really, really good as far as my idea and trying all this out and seeing that it actually works. So I have a wireless camera set up now that I can use for future videos and shots. That's pretty awesome, I think. For now, I'm very happy with just how it is, how it works, the fact that I can move this around and get different angles, and then move the whole box around as well if I need to locate it in a different spot somewhere else in my studio. So that's going to do it for me today. Hope you guys have a good day. If you have questions, comments, ideas, all of those things, leave them down below, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.